Today on Homeworthy, we're venturing into the heart of the English countryside to explore 3 extraordinary homes. First, we step inside a charming 17th century cottage where each detail has been thoughtfully restored, blending cherished family heirlooms, pillowy cushions, and plenty of chintz to create the ultimate country retreat. Next, we visit a beautifully renovated home in Suffolk, where classic architecture meets bold color and mid-century modern influences. Finally, in Surrey, we visit a masterfully restored 16th century red brick cottage that is full of historic charm and intertwined with warmth and modern elegance. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Rebecca. Welcome to our very crumbly, very rainy thatched cottage in the middle of nowhere. Come on in. So this is the entrance hall to the cottage. It's tiny, like all small cottages. We think it was built in about 1650 and was probably 2 rooms, but potentially could have all been one massive room. So this wouldn't even have been the entranceway, but it is the smallest room in the house. And it's great fun in the morning when the kids are trying to get ready for school. It's got the original brick flooring, which is beautiful. And then I've crammed in as much as possible, as many straw hats and bags, because I have a little bit of a passion about straw bags and straw hats, but they're very useful, so I need them hanging up. This is one of my aprons hanging up, also very useful. And that's pretty much all I can say about our hallway because it's absolutely tiny. So I added a little bit of glitz and glamour. I know it is supposed to be a farm worker's cottage and they would have had sheep and pigs living in here at some point, but I had to have this French chandelier that I spent probably 2 years sourcing and finally found a little shop in Kent and just had to have it. And it's also quite useful because the ceilings are really low, so it's actually quite difficult to get a light fitting. So a flush chandelier was absolutely perfect. They call it sac à pearl, which I think is so beautiful. A bit like a pig's purse, I suppose. This is a Baroque mirror that, again, I had to have that isn't entirely cottagey, but it just reflects the light. And I have to have a tiny little bit of glamour. It's not all straw bags. So let's step into the sitting room now. This is the room that actually captured our hearts when we first saw the cottage online. It was just the most stunning room, and I remember saying to my husband, can you even imagine living in a cottage like that? It was painted dark red, so it was completely empty. The house had been empty for nearly 2 years, and it was just somewhere that you walked into and just thought, oh my gosh, this is where our family should be. And I fell in love, funnily enough, with the dark red walls and then lived with it for about a year and then went, it's really dark. I'm not sure I can live in a really dark room anymore. I am a little creature of light. So it was a bit of a travesty to get rid of the dark red because it actually matched the red of the roses that are outside. But instead I got some curtains made with the gorgeous red that matched the original paint on the walls. I did go through a variety of colours in here, including farrow and balls, setting plaster, and then I went for a crazy dark blue because I thought, actually, you know what, you're supposed to encompass gorgeous north-facing rooms with dark colours. And again, I just, no, I need it to be light. So everywhere is an off-white, and then I brought the colour in with all the accessories, as you can see. So this is Dottie. This is her favourite spot in the entire cottage, actually, which is why it's so muddy. So don't look at this bit, please, because this is where she likes to jump up to. She can see Clive the robin outside, who actually flies past and perches to taunt her. He likes her to go outside and she chases him round and round and round, then he flies up into the tree and comes back down. Occasionally he does actually come in through the window or through the front door and he'll fly over and he'll come and say, oh, actually I've moved the music stand, but he'll come and perch on the music stand, and that makes Dottie absolutely furious. In fact, she's growling now because I think she's just remembering how irritating it is. Yes, Dottie, very good. Oh, it's a lovely waggy tail. Well done. And it also means that she can see any visitors coming to the gate, the horse riders that she barks at, and the cyclists and the walkers. Oh, yes, yeah, and yes, yeah, she does like barking an awful lot. So this is the sort of centre, the hub, really, of our sitting room, mainly because it has the wood burner in it. Old cottages do get very, very, very cold. So I had the curtains that I had made up in this gorgeous Kate Forman fabric that I just fell in love with. And it took me 5 years, but eventually I got the curtains of my dreams. I had them lined with a Titley and Marr ticking stripe because you can't beat florals and stripes. It makes me really happy. And then our poor curtain lady, I'd seen someone with frilly topped curtains and just thought, I have to have this in here. So I drew this really rough sketch because I couldn't find the curtains again and handed it to our curtain lady and said, please, please, will you make these curtains of my dreams? And somehow she did. It was quite extraordinary. One of her ladies was making it up and she said, one day I will have my house full of these curtains. They are so beautiful. And it's been probably 8 years now. We've been here 11 years. And I still smile every time I open the curtains in the morning. They make me so happy. I think one of my tips when people ask about designing is spend as much money as possible on fabrics because you see the quality and you can see how it hangs, as well as the fact that it's really thick blanket lining to stop the drafts coming in, because we are grade 2 listed, so we can't touch any of the exterior or do really any work inside. We have to make sure it's all keeping the original fabric of the building, so it's single pane and it does get jolly cold. So blanket line curtains are the way forward, as well as blankets and sheepskin rugs and our wood burner, which is a lifesaver. In the winter, we all sit in here most of the time because if you have the heating on, which is oil fired, it fills the entire cottage, which you don't actually need. So we tend to just huddle around here with cups of tea and glasses of wine in the evening and force the children to play board games occasionally so we feel like a good family. So yes, this is our main in the winter room. Although we do in the summer tend to use it, it's more just my husband and I. And then we have this door open here and we can then just sit outside. When it gets a little chilly, we can come back in again. When we first moved in, I was obsessed with the fact that the cottage was completely empty. We used to drive up and just peek through the windows at this gorgeous bare bones of a cottage and imagine living here. So in my head, I designed almost like a French farmhouse with just wooden bowls and simple as possible. And somehow I've ended up with floral craziness. Bit by bit, my personality has just come through and overridden the design that I actually planned. So I have filled it with soft furnishings and cushions and just things to make you feel really comfortable. So I love cabbages and roses. I love Hessian. This is a lovely Victorian chair under here, but it's been dogified and childified, so this little blanket covers it rather well. This was the first piece that we bought before we'd even bought the cottage. That's how convinced I was that we had to live in this magical place. We found it in an antique store about half an hour from here, and I just thought it's so perfect for storing toys. So as soon as people came over, I just throw all the toys into the trunk. Job done. It looked like the perfect house again, apart from the Cheerios and the socks that were also on the floor. And now it's got sort of more grown-up toys in, which makes me a little bit sad. There's still the Toy Story things, which makes me happy. This is a carpet that I actually found on eBay. I was desperate to try and fill the space with more colour and warmth. And there was a college professor in Cambridge who was retiring and moving back to India. So he had 2 rugs that I just were perfect for here. I was so lucky. So this is one of them. Again, we've got some more delicious floral cushions. This is from Velvet Linen, who actually, with these dies, she uses the flowers from her garden. It's quite extraordinary. These are the oldest sofas possibly in history. We had them when we first bought. We used to live in a cottage by a canal up in Cheshire. And these were when we first got married. So it's many, many, many years ago, although I'm very young. But really, they are quite saggy and yeah, a bit like me, I suppose. This is another stuffed bookcase. That was another piece that I bought when we first moved in. I bought it from, I think, eBay for about £5, and then painted it up and put the wallpaper from our old cottage into it. Although it's now so full of books, you can't actually see the wallpaper. This is a painting. Again, I love florals and I love colour. This is my husband's great aunt, Muriel Pemberton, and she was a very famous painter who thankfully loved florals and colour. So her paintings just work so beautifully in our house. She was an extraordinary woman, actually. She was at the Royal College of Art and realised she didn't really like her course very much, and she wanted to study textiles, but there wasn't a textile course to study. So she went to her professor and said, I really want to study textiles. If I create a course, can I study it and then teach it? And the head of Royal College of Art said, well, absolutely, that's absolutely fine by me, go for it. So she did, and it became incredibly successful. And she taught people like Bruce Oldfield and Vivienne Westwood, and then she taught at St Martin's. So it's just one of those lovely, empowering, dream big, and they will come true. So I love this house being filled with her paintings. I think it's lovely for the children and a lovely story. When we first moved in, this was just a very plain wall, which I had painted dark blue and then setting plaster. But I had a huge collection of books that actually stayed in our stables for about 5 years. And eventually we got the bookcase made. Now, because it's grade 2 listed, we couldn't just actually build it against the wall. We had to put in a false wall to protect the far wall, and then we could build the bookcase. So it took a long time, and our poor carpenter was slightly broken by the whole experience. But I love it. I've always dreamt of having a wall of books that I can run to and quickly, okay, I need this, and I just grab my book, and it's the most satisfying thing in the world. I used to be an actress, and I was classically trained at LAMDA, so I love Shakespeare. And for me, you need to pick up the play, and you need to pick up the words to see them, to feel it, which sounds ridiculous, but it's true. So I love just being able to pop and get it. And my daughter is now really enjoying her drama. She's 12 and they're studying Much Ado at the moment. So I was able to rush over to pick up the play and say, look at this, see these words? This is the funny bit with the deck chair. And she's really enjoying it, which makes me so happy. One of my dreams was to be able to sit in the window seat and read my books and my plays. And I find her sitting here now doing it, which makes me beyond happy. To share a love of books is so important. My mother was the same with us. I mean, she would force us to sit by the fireside and read poetry, which we didn't enjoy when we were little, but it has imbued me with a love of words, which is probably why I love writing so much, and a love of drama and theatre and fiction and falling into a story. That's my real happy place. So for me, this is my happy place. I also bought some velvet poufs to be able to collapse on. This was my idea of probably I'd sit on the window seat and my children would sit at my feet whilst I read to them. That hasn't quite happened, but Dottie's very good at sitting on them and covering them with marks. So if they look grubby, again, that's a Dottie. This sideboard was actually my mother-in-law's mother's. And in our old house, it worked really well because it was a very white, open space cottage, and in here I was worried that it would be too dark, but it just fits right in. It works so well with the oak beams, and one of the things I love about it the most is my mother-in-law remembers hiding inside the sideboard when she was tiny. So when she comes to stay, it's lovely that she will look at that and she still remembers that now, which is really magical. These are some antique pineapple lamps that, again, I just had to add a little bit more glitz and glamour to the cottage. Another one of Muriel's beautiful paintings. And what else have we got over here? This is a painting by one of my friends, Emma Perring. I actually met her through Instagram, and she's become a really dear friend. And as soon as she paints something, I steal it and bring it into my cottage and say, don't sell it yet. It's just got to come and live here for a bit. So I'm so lucky. I get these extraordinary paintings. Again, florals that I absolutely love. I think when you live in a dark cottage. We have a huge thatch that overhangs it, so it can be really dark. You need to fill it with colour and florals and uplifting things. So I'm very lucky to have met her. This is our piano that was my mother's. It was a very dark, shiny, it sucked the life out of the room. So she agreed that I could paint it, which was really lovely of her. And I checked the piano tuner and I was saying, will it affect the sound? And I don't know, you'll just have to try it. So I did, and thankfully it now bounces the light from the window and hasn't affected the sound, which is great. I can't really play, I can play a few chords to help my daughter, but my daughter plays, and we have brilliantly talented friends who used to be in musicals in the West End. So every Christmas party, we all gather around here and they play the songs and we all sing really terribly. And you can see them go, oh, it's not like being in the West End anymore. But we have a lovely time. So this is another little hub of the home. This is the original mullioned window, which when it was built would have been level, but year by year, it just slopes a little bit more. I suppose a bit like me actually again. But I love that. This is the real character of the house. When you can see something that was built in 1600, that's just mind-blowing. You can touch the wood. It just makes me really happy. One of the things I fell in love with this room is the fact that there is a little door outside. So in the summer, it's always open, so you can hear the birds, which I just love. So follow me outside to the garden. Oh, I sound like a wildlife person. This is our back garden. These are the roses that were the inspiration for my curtains. So I get very excited at this time of year when the dark red roses appear and then they match my curtains. We're also lucky enough to have an old wisteria that grows up the back of the cottage. We have had a few discussions over pruning it, and there was one year that my husband hacked it back to virtually nothing. So since then, neither of us have touched it. So it is a little overgrown and it does need a prune, but we're now both too scared to actually touch it. We've still got some beautiful flowers on it, and it's magical in May sitting at this table, and the smell of the wisteria is so strong. It's just glorious. This is the table where we eat as much as possible because you have to make the most of it if it's not raining, which is quite rare now. It seems to rain all the time. The cottage sits in about an acre of land, which we've partitioned up. So at the front we have a sort of herb bed and a wildflower bed, and that's where all our apple trees are. And then at the back, bit by bit, my husband is making it more of a garden. So when we first moved in, the fence over there, that was all paddock for ponies. But we were very clear that we did not want ponies. I grew up with horses and it's really hard work. So when my son got interested in horses, that's when the whole paddock was changed into a garden as quickly as possible. It goes quite far back. There's a climbing frame at the very back that's now been covered by mainly trees, but we're also growing an orchard on the right hand side, and we have lots of dams and trees at the back, and on the left that's where our kitchen garden is, which is very slow work in progress, but it is wonderful to go down and pick your own vegetables that you grew and cutting flowers, which makes me really excited. We've got a cherry tree there, we've got pear trees that are just about to start their little pear journey, which is really exciting, and a beautiful rambling rector rose that is just about to flower as well. So I like to sit under there because the smell is extraordinary, and the sound of the bees buzzing in the morning is just out of this world fabulous. This is where we host friends in the summer, and we tend to add more chairs so all the grown-ups can sit around, and then the children just run wild in the garden and we don't see them for a long time, which is quite lovely actually when you've got small children. Ours are older now, so it's not quite the same thing. One of my favourite things to do is table styling, and I think that's how really one of the things why my Instagram took off. I go all out. I think when you've got guests coming, you've invited them to your home and you want them to feel welcome. So I will cover it in tablecloths and cushions and candles and silver and my best plates and as many flowers as I can gather and fit onto the table with the food as well. When friends come in, they tend to come through the side entrance, and if they go, oh wow, I know I've done my job properly. It's funny, I was talking to my best friend the other day and saying, I just love styling, and I'd forgotten how much I love styling. And she said, but you've always done it. Why is that any surprise to you? Whenever you've had friends over, whenever we've been over, you love to fill the table with loveliness. And it's something that never occurred to me. I just do it naturally. I want people to feel special and feel spoiled. So I will go all out. And if it wasn't raining, there would be a delicious setup here with candles and plates and maybe even some food. I don't know. Unfortunately, it's beginning to pour down with rain. So we might just have to go inside, and maybe we'll do it inside instead. Out of the rain and into the kitchen. This is one of my favourite rooms in the house. It's probably where I spend most of my time, certainly in the summer anyway. In fact, even in the winter, I tend to be huddled by the Arga, keeping warm if I'm not in the sitting room. So I love this room so much. When we first came to view the property, we were peering through those windows just to see what was in here, and there was absolutely nothing in here. We had the Arga, which we were really lucky, and then there was quite a nasty worktop there. So we took that out, and then I decided that I wanted to try and honour the sense of history with the house. I didn't want to put in a new fitted kitchen because I just didn't think that worked. So I bought a second-hand sink and a Belfast sink because I wanted it to have that lovely country feel to it. And I just couldn't wait to be standing at that sink looking out over the front garden. That was one of the things I was really looking forward to, which is a bit weird actually, isn't it? I also was really looking forward to cooking on the Arga. I love cooking on the Arga. Baking, I love. And it took me a while to work out how to bake in an Arga because there's no temperature setting. You just have to work out whereabouts in the Arga to put it. And in the summer, the Arga burns everything. And in the winter, it doesn't cook anything. So it takes quite a while to get used to. But now I just would not be without it. I love her so much. She is temperamental. So I do call her Dame La Arga because she decides when she'll cook something and when she won't. Oh, Dottie, be careful. What else did I do? I bought this island because it's such a huge space. I felt we could manage to have an island that I could prep on because there isn't an enormous amount of worktop because we didn't want to go fitted. So we decided to keep it as simple as possible with unfitted furniture. So I brought in the sink, I brought in the kitchen island, which can be moved for dancing and very often is when we have friends over. I bought this dresser from my very first home decades ago. No, not decades ago because I'm very young, probably about 2 years ago actually. But yes, when I first moved out, I bought this dresser from a chap in Brighton who made them. And I was looking everywhere for a pine dresser and suddenly discovered this man, and he had this just warehouse full of dressers and tables that he'd made. So I ended up also buying the pine table as well. But they have been with me ever since, and I really love that. So I could never get rid of this dresser, even though it's not necessarily quite the right style. I can't get rid of it because it's got my heart in it. It's also got my enormous collection of china that seems to grow daily, which is really peculiar. I think it's like rabbits. It's got lots of china from my mother-in-law and her mother. Now, what's brilliant is her mother was sister of Muriel Pemberton, the artist. And my mother-in-law's mother was actually the first female pottery owner in Stoke-on-Trent, which is quite an extraordinary achievement. Again, another extraordinary woman. I think she eventually sold out to Wedgwood, who just wanted a piece of her delicious factory. But she created some really gorgeous pieces. They were called Aristocrat. So I've got lots of her china here that I love using because, again, it's just a wonderful part of history. My husband will spend wherever we are, when we go to an antique shop or we go, I don't know, to glorious shops with china, he'll always turn them over to see where they're from. And there's quite a lot of sniffiness goes on that I have now taken on board as well, which probably isn't a good thing, but it does mean that I know a little bit more about china and now love collecting it. I do also have a second dresser, which does seem a bit strange, but I wanted unfitted. I actually originally bought this dresser because I was at the time buying furniture and painting it up and then selling it on. But I bought this and it took me a really long time. It was that sort of nasty orange pine. It took me a long time to strip it and paint it. And then once I'd finally finished it, and it was in here for a long time with people stepping over it, I just fell in love with it. and I actually couldn't sell it, which is why I never did particularly well at painting furniture, because I generally kept most of it. It wasn't the greatest business idea in the world. But I love this dresser, and I think it fits in really well, and I don't think it looks too bizarre having two dressers, because it is just a country kitchen, and as my mother-in-law says, it's a cottage. It's just an old cottage, so you can get away with whatever you want, quite frankly. This is a very old Laura Ashley sofa. Again, this was one of my dreams, to have a kitchen where I could have a sofa in it. So Dottie and I spend quite a lot of time sitting here in the afternoons having a cup of tea. This is another one of Muriel's paintings. These are her Yugoslavian paintings when she was studying textiles and teaching textiles. So again, really important, and just something lovely to have that relationship with, particularly for the children, I think. What else have we got? So this is the table that I also accidentally bought at the same time as buying the dresser. I do a lot of accidental purchases, but what I love about this, so this was with me in my house in London when I was a drama student. So it's had lots of famous actors sitting around here, lots of my best friends from when I was tiny. In fact, my friend Nicola was here the other day, and she was feeling her elbows, and she was saying, I wonder if there are indentations of my elbows on this table from sitting and drinking wine with you late into the night, which I really love. I can't see them. There is a lot of glitter from the children when they were little, but it holds my history, and I think that's what makes a home. If you have things that your heart feels really happy about, and that has years and years of your family, that makes it your place and your home. Our cottage is fortunate enough to be on the border of 3 different counties. So we have Suffolk, Cambridgeshire and Essex, which means we are surrounded by the most beautiful countryside and glorious thatched cottages. And it is definitely a slower pace of life, which I have had to adapt to. I moved from London many years ago up to Cheshire, so got used to living in the countryside. But coming here was really different. There's a really magical feel to around here. It's a slower way of life, but I think a much happier way of life. We have fields of crops all around us. We're lucky enough to have our own veg plot, our own cutting garden for flowers. These are all actually from the front garden, where when we were little, the children would take the seed heads of these aquilegia and they'd spread them all over the flower bed, which means now we just have a gazillion aquilegia popping up every May, which makes me really happy. We are surrounded by cow parsley, which again, I cannot wait for May to arrive, because then I know the hedgerows will be frothing and bubbling with gloriousness, and that makes me really happy after a very long, dark, cold winter. You are desperate to have green. So in the winter, you can see for miles and miles and miles because it's completely bare. And then suddenly April happens and you get sunshine and rain, and it's just an explosion of green. And it's peculiar. You walk past the window and think, oh gosh, I'm not used to that view, because suddenly the colour is different and it changes the light everywhere. And it bonds you with the countryside. It makes it a really special place to live. So I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky to be able to pop outside and pick some flowers. And yes, they're probably buttercups and cow parsley, as well as all of my cutting flowers. But that's what makes it so special. So I've got the aquilegia and the cow parsley. And then I've got some snapdragons that are just beginning to come through, which is wonderful. I love the dark colour on these. These are from my cutting garden. What else have I got? Some peonies that aren't quite in bud yet. I was really hoping they might have popped by now. So I'm sorry, peonies, I've cut you a bit early, but they make me really excited. We've got hops hanging from the ceiling. That's such an old fashioned thing to have, but it again brings in the countryside and brings in that sense of where you are and farming. And when they first arrive, the smell is extraordinary. It's so fresh, and it's supposed to help you sleep, actually. It's a really good soporific. But then they dry to this gorgeous colour. And I remember reading a book, I think it was from the 1970s, about cottage charm. And I think that just stuck in my head. So I knew I had to have hops when we moved in here, because that's what cottages have to be charming. But they also need an Aga, and this is our very old, very elderly, but happy little Aga when she works. A rocking chair, which I've had since I was about 13, I think. I became really interested in interior design at a very young age. So my poor mother, I'd say, today I am going to sponge the walls pink and grey to look like clouds. Yeah, I mean, that was the early 90s. And I needed a rocking chair. Everything had to be cozy and comfortable. So I suppose it's always been like that. But what I love is that these things have travelled with me since when I was really little, but they still work in our home. So that's a really fortunate thing. We'll go upstairs now. A lot of people actually go into our pantry to try and go upstairs. Initially, this was the sitting room, and through there was the kitchen. So I think the stairs probably were originally located there, which is really unusual that people make their way there. I love that. Anyway, these are now the stairs here. So we will go upstairs and have a little explore. Coming upstairs, you will notice the bookcase behind me that does look impossible to get to. The original plan, I'd bought these antique ladders, which were so beautiful, and I was suggesting that we could have it as a banister coming up the stairs so it hooked over, but when you wanted to get the books, you'd unhook it, pop it against the books, you can reach your Agatha Christie's no problem. That still hasn't happened, and that's about 5 years ago. So instead, we very carefully balance our feet either side. So my husband dreads it when I say, oh, I really fancy reading an Agatha Christie tonight. Now, this section of the hallway is what persuaded my children that we had to move in here, because the floor slopes so enormously that they were able to have their wheelie bugs and they would simply glide down the hallway into my son's bedroom, which they absolutely loved. When we first moved here, we had friends to stay, and one chap came out of the bathroom and said, I'm not sure if I had too much wine or if I'm on a ship, but this is seriously sloped. And it's one of the many reasons that I love this cottage. It's wonky and it's wobbly, but that's what makes it charming, I think. This is the shall not be seen children's section. I can't believe I'm actually allowing you to see it, but this is where they store all their books. And then they sit on this bench, which is filled with their dressing up from when they were little, and I haven't had the heart to empty it yet. We used to have children over all the time, and they'd be Batman and Spider-Man and princesses running around. So that's still in there for now because I can't get rid of it. But yes, this is now their book section, which is just stacked and stacked and stacked. And I've actually did an edit on it about 3 months ago, but it just seems to have filled back up again. But this is my friend Emma Perring again. And when I started the book blog, I asked her if she would paint something for me as a sort of almost like a logo for Are You Sitting Comfortably? And she painted that for me, which is our Arga. And I love it so much. And I love that it's just fitted in here with all the kids' books. It just makes me really happy again. This is our main bedroom, which has the world's widest floorboards. Okay, that's not actually true, but the floorboards are made from the original trees that were cleared to create this cottage. They are wobbly, they are wonky, and yes, as so many people will point out, you can very easily lose things down them, but I couldn't cover them up. They were totally covered up when we came, and we pulled back this old carpet and discovered them and just thought, okay, it's not going to be soft, and I'm going to lose a lot of tights and my husband's going to lose a lot of socks, but they are too beautiful to be hidden, and they are what create the character of this room. I love them so much. So I'm afraid they're staying, and we just have to have slightly painful feet all of the time. I also did invent, well, actually no, it was my mother-in-law invented it, a biro with a little bit of blue tack stock on the end, so you can pop it down the floorboards and pick up whatever you've lost. There's no problem at all. This is another Emma Perring painting, which I absolutely love, of Norfolk. We're only about an hour and a half away from Norfolk, so it's one of our very precious places. This is a set of bedroom furniture that I bought for our second house, I think. Really cheap from eBay, dark wood, nobody wanted it, and I painted it all up. And actually I really love it now, and I think it fits in really well here. This is our wedding sheepskin rug that's so old, but does mean that we don't hurt our poor little feet as we go into the bathroom at night. This I waited a long time for. I love it so much. I think it really suits the style of the bedroom. Yes, it's propped up on books, as virtually everything is in this house, because again, the floor is so wonky. I often get questions, why is your bed on books? Do you love books so much? Well, yes, I do love books so much, but it is also the fact that otherwise our feet would be much, much further down than our heads. So we had to prop it up with books. And I do love books, so I think it works okay. We have lovely views out over the fields. So on the rare occasion when I can actually stay in bed till maybe even 7:30, I love sitting in bed and just looking out over the fields at the moment, watching the rain come in. It's very romantic. Another one of my interior passions is cushions. I can't help it. I just keep buying them, and there it is. It's out there. There's nothing I can do about it. I would have even more if I could. My husband has drawn the line at this amount on the bed. The front ones are Cocoa and Wolf Liberty deliciousness, so I had to have them. They're just so pretty. The back ones are handmade patchwork. I just love pink and green, as you can probably see from in here, and it matches my friend Emma Perring's painting up there, so it works really well. The curtains again were another, oh my gosh, this is the fabric I have to have. I love cabbages and roses. This is Paris rose, interlined with blanket lining again to keep it warm, but they just create the most beautiful patterns. So I wear it in my dresses and I wear it on my curtains, and I don't care. This is our tiny ensuite next to our bedroom, and my first foray into wallpapering in here, which is very exciting. I've got this gorgeous Luciana Ball alternative of William Morris, and I just love the colours. It's so rich and pretty. I wanted to keep our bedroom cool and calm for perfect sleep, but I let myself have just a little bit more colour entering into this room, and I really enjoy it. I love looking out of the window in the morning at our converted stables and all the farm buildings beyond. In the spring, you get the blossom coming up on the trees, the birds start to go crazy, and it's a really wonderful way to wake up in the morning. This is my daughter's newly decorated bedroom. We finally got rid of the fairies, which was utterly heartbreaking. For me, not my daughter, she's 12, she was ready to get rid of the fairies. I was not. I'd spent years dreaming of making this fairy room for her. Anyway, I'm actually over the moon. I'm so excited. I kept walking past the fairies, stroking them, thinking, I'll never be able to live without them. But I love this. It's widened the room. Having quite a busy pattern on two walls has just opened it up. And roses and flowers, well, you can't beat roses and flowers, but it's just added, it's a little bit more grown up. It's not too grown up. We've still kept her little princess four-poster bed, but it's a lovely in-between now, I think. Laura Ashley have helped me to create something really magical, actually. I wanted it to be a sort of Anne of Green Gables meets somebody who might actually quite like Taylor Swift. It's quite niche, and there's no Taylor Swift posters yet, but she loves it. She's over the moon. Mainly with the rug, because it's so soft and comfortable underfoot, because the poor thing has been on a very slopey, slippery floor. When she has friends to sleep over, we put a mattress here, and they wake up in the morning generally underneath the bed because they slip further and further down. When she first started school, she had a little friend over, and the friend went home and said to her mummy, Verity's got a hill in her room. How can I get a hill in my room? That's how much of a slope it is. So hopefully this rug will stop children falling under the bed. So it's really a safety rug as well as being utterly beautiful. I bought the little lamp to tie in with the colours of the wallpaper. I wanted to bring more colour in without it being overpowering because it is a small room. So I've just done that through matching, bringing out the yellows and the pinks and the light blues, stripes on the bed to match the stripes of the curtains. The wardrobe I fell in love with as soon as I saw it in the new collection and just thought, well, I've got to have that. I measured it, I did measure it. I made sure that the ceiling was absolutely, even with the curve, it would still fit in. What I forgot to do was measure the entrance to the door and the entrance to the stairs. So my poor husband had to take all the architraving off, and the poor men delivering it, they had a small tear before they managed to get it up the stairs once we'd taken the banister off. But it fits and it looks beautiful. So I am delighted. Hopefully we've nailed Anne of Green Gables and eventually some Taylor Swift will come into it. I write for Pre-Loved magazine, so secondhand, pre-loved is really important to me. I didn't want everything new in this room. So this bed we actually bought from eBay, oh gosh, years and years ago. So I really wanted to keep that, as well as the chest This desk replaced the Barbie house. And we bought this from Facebook Marketplace, and we were so lucky. Yes, it's a little bit knocked, but I think that adds to the charm of it. It fits in with the rest of the house. Ditto the chair. We've kept the cot that I bought years ago from eBay and painted up for my daughter, and so far that's been allowed to stay, so I'm delighted with that. The lampshade is the original one that I bought for this room. The fairy curtains had to go, which again was devastating, but we have sold those on. And Tori Murphy made me up these most beautiful rose linen stripy curtains that make me really happy. There is something about fabric and curtains and cushions that just make me so excited. So hopefully it all now blends in, and it's a mix of old and new, which I think is really important. And what's lovely is that it's really important to my daughter, and I think the younger generation are so much more switched on to the older generations make, do and mend. My parents' generation, it's our generation that got a little bit lost, and we need to find that again. But hopefully this room is balancing that a little bit. Thank you so much for visiting Homeworthy. It's been so wonderful to talk through my home and my interiors. I'm sorry, I probably talked far too much. And I'm also sorry for sending you back out into the horrible rain now. But thank you very, very much for visiting our cottage. Bye.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Emma. Welcome to my home in Suffolk. Come in, come and have a look around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Emma Payton and I am a full-time content creator and mother as well, and I live here in a village in Suffolk. So we bought the house about 6 months before COVID kicked in, and so yeah, we got out of London. We used to live in Hackney, and we had our 2 kids there. And we decided to get out of London and move somewhere with some more space and less sort of city life, more country life, to bring our kids up. So the kids were 3 and 6 when we moved here, and we basically saw this house and fell in love with it. It was actually the only house we saw. It's a Georgian house at the front, and then it's 14th century at the back. And it needed quite a lot of work, so the windows and the electrics and the plumbing, lots of things that we kind of knew we had to do, but we didn't quite realise how big a scale it was. So yeah, we basically came to see the house and just completely fell in love with it. We got my parents' opinion on it because we have bought something in the past where we were a bit blindsided by the property, and it had loads of issues. But for this house, we were like, we'll get an opinion, and my parents were just like, it's amazing, but it's definitely a money pit. So we were kind of quite aware of like the amount of investment we'd have to put into it to make it the right home for us. But yeah, we're really pleased with the results, and it's been a bit of a labour of love, and definitely an ongoing project as well. When we bought the house, it had quite a lot of work done to it already, and there were a few rooms that definitely they'd kind of spent, you know, quite a bit of money on and working on the interiors, but it was definitely looking quite tired and dated. All the walls were yellow, and there had been fitted carpet everywhere, and that had all been pulled up. There were just wires hanging out the wall. The previous owners had pretty much taken everything from like doorknobs to toilet seats to the letterbox on the front door. So yeah, when we first moved in on that first day, it was quite a shock really, I guess, seeing the house looking quite stark and a little bit unloved really. So yeah, it was a very yellow house when we moved in, put it that way. Welcome to my giant hallway. This is just such an incredible space. It's a massive, massive hallway. And we completely fell in love with all the original features, which are the beams on the ceiling, and of course this sweeping staircase, which is just kind of sold the house to us really. And more recently we've put in because there's so much space in here, we've got room for a grand piano, which my husband got. He's actually a musician, so he plays this quite a lot. And we play it quite a lot at Christmas, which is fun as well. And then moving over here, this is a piece of artwork by an artist called Philippa Jeffrey, and I just love the colours. I think it really works well with the wall colours. And then this is a chaise longue that I got from a brocante, which is actually held in our village. They do it 4 times a year in their garden, and it's called a boulin. And I found this there, and I thought, again, green, it was perfect for our house, because green is one of my favourite colours, as you will see throughout the house. Another colour which you will see a lot is pink. This is a chandelier which kind of like pulls all the room together, and it's by Pure White Lines, and it's just the most beautiful kind of statement piece of lighting. Which more recently we've just put in a round table in the middle as well. It's kind of just all finally brought the room together really. I try not to fill the space with too much stuff. Actually, for a long time we didn't have the table or the rug or anything in here, and my daughter quite often was roller skating in this area, and we thought actually as a kind of young family it was quite nice to have all the space in here as a bit of a having a bit of fun. And we thought we'd have parties and things in here as well. I think kind of more recently when I have thought I'd like to bring some pieces in, I thought still keep it quite simple. This jute rug with the scalloped edge, I liked the kind of the roundness to it and the way it sort of gave a bit of a centre grounding to the room. So this big hallway, basically on that side we've got a dining room, and then on that side we've got a living room. But I kind of wanted to kind of have a connection between all 3 rooms. So I've kind of done that a little bit through colour as well. So for example, there's the pink of the light here, and then when you look through into that room, there's a little bit of pink in one of the artworks on the wall. But so I've kind of tried to stick with a kind of slightly round theme in here, not go too crazy with filling it with too much stuff, so we can sort of parties and things in here. And it's fun at Christmas. We actually had our Christmas tree here this Christmas, it's a great space for that as well, and having lots of people in it. I actually went out this morning and did some foraging, which I quite often do. I found some really nice blossom, and then these amazing, it actually kind of looks quite autumnal, which obviously it's not autumn at the moment, but I just love these colours together, and I just thought as a bit of a centrepiece, this is the table to kind of go for it, with a bit of like extravagant foraged blossom and branches. Quite often I'll have just more traditional flowers here, but I feel like this is like a nice focal point to have a bit of a statement going on as you come into the house. And again, just helps kind of bring everything all together. So originally when we moved in, the floor was very, very dark. It had a very dark kind of finished varnish on it. A couple of years ago, we actually got the floors sanded because we didn't like the darkness. We actually wanted to create more light in this space. So yes, we sanded the floors, and after he sanded it, he was like, "Oh, what varnish do you want, and how dark do you want to go?" But actually, we just really loved the kind of finish as it was. So he just put quite a clear varnish on it to keep it quite light and just quite natural, really. But this is the original flooring, and it's quite drafty and quite cold in here, to be honest. But we love it, and you'll see in some of the other rooms we've kind of gone for it with rugs and things to add a bit of warmth and texture to the floor. But we love the floor. It's nice, original feature. So when we moved into the house, there were definitely lots of moments of what have we done. And that we'd maybe taken on a little bit too much. We knew it was going to be a big project, but definitely the first 6 months we lived here, I actually think I pretty much cried most days. We've completely just overwhelmed. Obviously, I was here with young kids as well, so it was kind of about getting into the community as well and getting set up and established with meeting people as much, so being in a new village as much as kind of sorting the house out as well. So yeah, the first 6 months was definitely the most challenging. Yeah, it was quite scary at a few points as well. I actually think within the first couple of days we had moved in, I think I quickly said to my husband, like, I don't think I can stay here. I think I'm just going to have to go and like be with my parents for a couple of nights, because it was just complete chaos, really. We had like plumbers in, we had electricians in, there was just chaos everywhere trying to like piece together how the house works. So yeah, it's definitely been some serious lows, but then some serious highs as well. We're going to head over into the living room now, so follow me. Okay, so here we are in the living room, and it's another big space that we had to tackle. Yeah, we painted it light blue in here, and actually one thing we did do is we painted the ceilings and the walls and the skirting and the radiators all the same colour, just to kind of really drench it and make it feel a little bit more modern actually. And again, we've got the original floorboards in here, and then some of the features which I love are some of the rugs, which I think just help to bring a bit of colour into the room. So we've got a couple of vintage rugs in here, and they also add a bit of warmth as well because it can get quite cold in here. We've got the log burner, which we installed. That is amazing in the winter time to make it really nice and cosy in here. You can actually, yeah, just shut the doors off and shut the doors off here and get it nice and cosy. But yeah, the kind of the L-shaped sofa, which we got from West Elm. Again, it took quite a long time to kind of find the right things, but we quite like the kind of slightly mid-century feel, but the fact that it was on quite a big scale worked really well in this space. And then the coffee table, that is also from the same guys actually where we got the chandelier from, called Pure White Lines. And it's got a slight kind of 70s feel to it, which, yeah, is one of the areas kind of like style-wise I think is quite fun with interiors. So we kind of, with the coffee table, and that led to sort of getting this arced, slightly retro lamp in here, which is probably quite unusual for like a Georgian house. But again, I think it's just quite nice to have a bit of fun with interiors, really. So yes, we've got the arc, and then we've kind of got some quite fun artwork. That is by David Shrigley, and it was a nice way to get some colour in here as well. So we went with quite a big round mirror above the fireplace. Again, I quite like the kind of way that reflects the hallway, the round table in there, the round mirror here. Pops of red, definitely. So the chair, which is a Soho home chair, yeah, that kind of unexpected red theory, they say. I think, yeah, red works really, really well in this kind of space. And we've got pops of red coming through on some of the pillows and some of the artwork, some of the candles. But yeah, I love this room. It's one of my favourite rooms actually to hang out in. Yeah, we've obviously got our television here, and then we've got a mid-century sideboard. Took me ages to source a really long sideboard basically, which I think I found on Vinteria in the end. And then the wall lights, they tie in with the chandelier in the hallway. They are by Pure White Lines, and yeah, I quite like that pop of pink against the blue walls as well. The beam, that was already like that. I don't know what has happened along the way, whether it was a beam that was then covered up with the kind of cornicing detail. But yeah, it's a really nice feature to the room. We did actually have a few issues in here with a bit of a leak in the fireplace. Over there, we actually had mushrooms growing in this room at one point. But yeah, it's a lovely feature to the room, and definitely, yeah, makes it feel like a really special space to kind of hang out in. Yes, so the flowers, I've actually got a friend that lives in the village, and she is a flower farmer, which is quite handy. So I got these from her basically. She's called the Wild Society. So yeah, I've put a lot of flowers throughout the house. I love having flowers in the house. I just think it makes the space really nice and complete and brings a bit more colour into the room. But yeah, these are some tulips that I got from her. So yeah, I didn't find those myself, but I got them from my friend. So this mirror is a bit of a statement mirror. You'll probably see throughout the house that I have a little bit of an obsession with wavy lines and scalped edges. You can see they're kind of like subtly everywhere. But yeah, I just saw this mirror and it's from Anthropology. It's one of my favourite things. I shoot quite a lot of content in front of it, so it features quite heavily on my Instagram. But yeah, my lovely wooden wavy mirror. Come with me now, we're going to go and see the dining room on the other side. Okay, so we are in the dining room now, and again, amazing beams on the ceiling here. Such a beautiful original feature of this kind of the Georgian front to the house. And we've also got these original shutters which actually close. And we decided to go with some cafe curtains here because actually we are kind of on the street level and people can peer in basically. So yeah, we've just got a bit of a cafe curtain vibe going on over there. We kind of went quite dark with the walls and then this kind of bright yellow. It's actually called Sudbury yellow, which is a Farrow and Ball colour, and Sudbury is in Suffolk. It's kind of like a Suffolk yellow. So this is the only remaining yellow that's in the house because originally the previous owners, the whole house was pretty much yellow. So we embraced it a little bit here. Basically, this is a room that we kind of have Christmas in, and so we have our Christmas dinner in here, and we do dinner parties, which is, yeah, a really fun space to have it in. This is actually was sold to me as a, which I didn't know, and then when I went to pay, the guy told me it was actually apparently a cocaine table. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but it spins around and there's actually like a little mirror here, and you can put wine in the bottom. We obviously use it as a little kind of cocktail cabinet, which is why I bought it. And this is from the Boulin, which is one of the local kind of vintage brocante places, but it's just a really fun piece, and it's got like little slidey doors and up here. So yeah, we're really into kind of making cocktails. So yeah, this is like our little cocktail making station here. I just wanted some kind of like fun pieces really. Actually, I've had this for a long time. It's just from Oliver Bonus, which is just a UK high street store. It's like a little velvet, again, quite retro feel, which we love. And then yeah, we've just got some disco mirror balls down here, which quite often I use as props actually in some of my content, for, especially around kind of Christmas time. But yeah, just kind of add a little bit of fun to the room. We've got a wood burner in here, and again, this room can get quite cold, so it's lovely in the winter to have that going. And then this was a print we had in our old house. It's called Lamella, and yeah, we had it in our old house and just loved it. It's just a really nice, big, bright, fun pop of colour, basically. I think it's just nice to have another kind of bright colour in here. It works quite well with the dark walls. And we kind of, the lighting, we absolutely love the brand Soho Home. So we got these lights and actually the chandelier as well from them. And yeah, kind of again, that quite sort of fun, slightly 70s influence. The table is a vintage mid-century table. It extends, it's actually fully extended at the moment. It's from actually a local lady that sells vintage furniture called Modern Antiques. And then these chairs are actually just a copy of a very famous chair, and they're just bought from they're quite cheap from Dunelm, because we ran out of money. Couldn't afford the real deal, so these have been brilliant actually. Just I think they work quite well in the space. And then we just got some little cosy sheepskin pads to sit on for when it's a bit colder in here in the winter for Christmas and things like that. So when we have like dinner parties, I've had like last year I had a couple of girls' dinner parties in here, which were quite fun. And normally the table is like full on singing and dancing. Like I'm really into tablescapes, so there's normally a tablecloth, lots and lots of candles, lots of flowers, lots of like fancy glasses, and then yeah, kind of, I mean, to be honest with the food, I try and keep it really, really simple. Just something that can be bought out and put on the side and people can just serve themselves. So yeah, it's normally all about like kind of going a bit extravagant really, and having lots of fun and having cocktails and champagne and yeah, having music on and having a bit of party in here really. But yeah, it's a really fun space to hang out in and yeah, have friends and stuff over. So in the past I have worked as a buyer. I was actually a fashion buyer at Bowden for over 10 years. I've always loved fashion and studied fashion marketing and communication at university. So yeah, I was a buyer for a big chunk of my career. And then when I had my son, I actually set up a blog that was kind of based around kids' clothing, kids' gifts, finding things that I just wanted to share with people. And it was kind of just a bit of a sideline really, that I thought maybe it was something I could build one day, and my husband was quite encouraging that maybe if we ever moved out of London, it'd be quite good to have something like a blog, that you don't have to be commuting into London every day to do it. You can work from home and you can be a bit more flexible around the kids and family life. But yeah, it kind of went from there really, and then I started sharing outfits that I was wearing as a mum, and people were just really interested to see what I was wearing and finding out more about that. And then that's the way my blog and my Instagram kind of shifted to be a bit more about me, and outfits and styling and ideas on how to wear clothes and where to find good wardrobe staples. So yeah, that kind of shifted after buying. I went into that, and then after I had my daughter, decided not to go back to the buying role that I was doing, and try and focus full-time basically on my blog and my Instagram and becoming a content creator. So yeah, and I just really loved it. It worked really well around family life. I could be flexible, so I could take time off in the holidays to be with my kids. And kind of over the years, probably when we renovated our house in London was when I realised I also was very keen on interiors. So yeah, I think when we renovated our home in London, which was another really big project, but on a much smaller scale compared to this, and we did the interiors there. Again, people were just, anything I was sharing about it on my blog and on my Instagram, people were really keen to see more. So yeah, it's not something I've studied really, the interior side of things. It's just something that I love. And then more recently, I've set up a home account for this house, which documented the renovation journey kind of that we went on. So yeah, so it's kind of evolved into a bit of fashion interiors, probably a bit more in the last few years. We're going to go check out the rest of the house now. Okay, so this is the mini hallway, and really wanted to kind of go for it in here because it was quite a small space compared to the bigger rooms. I just love pattern and I love wallpaper, and just totally fell for this Print Sisters archive paper, just kind of mixing kind of traditional print really with kind of a bit more modern colour. So yeah, we kind of went for it and mixed it with the dark green paint. And yeah, fun little wavy mirror on the wall, and it kind of then leads into our downstairs toilet. Again, just wanted to have a bit of fun with this downstairs loo, and we actually picked one of the colours kind of from the wallpaper to kind of like lead into here. And we have a bright orange bathroom basically. This is one area we've not really done anything, changed anything with the flooring. So we just painted over the tiles with tile paint. And this amazing sink, which was already here actually, with the little kind of shell detail on the side. So this is just a hand towel from Anthropologie. I just like the colours. I think the colours work really well with the space. And then the mirror, that's also from Anthropologie. Again, as you can see, another little wavy scalloped edge. And I like the kind of the blue contrasting with the bright orange. And then we kind of just went with dark skirting as well, and then a little bit of artwork on the walls as well. So we are in the kitchen now, and as you can see, it's very light and bright. this is the extension that we did a couple of years ago. And yeah, so this bit is all new, and the flooring is the oak parquet, which continues through from the snug room. And we had a kitchen designed and made for us. And as you can see, gone for green and pink as a little bit of a theme in here. The worktops are actually Carrara marble, which we sourced, which is the most beautiful worktop, but I must confess, it does stain and it does scratch, but we're kind of like learning to embrace those like imperfections that it brings. But yeah, the island is a really big island, and we've got our hob on the island here, and it's actually got an air vent built into it, so we didn't have to have an extractor fan above it, so it's almost like the extractor fan is in it and sucks everything down, which is a really nice feature. Yeah, we've got a little area here we can keep cookbooks and things. Yeah, we've got our fridge over here, big fridge freezer, and then yeah, pantry cupboard in here. We decided not to have kind of cabinets above. I'll show you in a minute the pantry cupboards we had built. But yeah, we were really keen to have a little shelf built, which was actually an absolute pain to create, but they managed to do it in the end, because we really like the idea of sort of using it as a bit of a display area for little bits of artwork and flowers, and then little bits from the pantry as well, which we brought through. So yeah, it's just quite a nice way, and actually quite often we move things around and it just makes it quite flexible to switch up artwork and colours and things like that. But it's a really, really great space to cook in. Me and my husband both love cooking. I tend to cook most during the week, and then my husband likes to cook quite a lot at the weekend, and we're trying to encourage the kids definitely to cook a bit more with us. So it's a well used and well loved kitchen. And I think that moving to this village as well, we don't have Deliveroo or anything like that on our doorstep, so we have to do a lot more cooking here. But we both love cooking, but we're just quite time poor. So when we do cook, it's just great to do it. But I'd say both of us probably cook similar amount. So one of the things I love washing up in this spot is there's a really amazing view out to the village square. It's actually like a little walled garden area, but you can see the clock tower in the village that goes off on the hour every hour. But yeah, it's a really nice view out basically when you're doing the washing up. Makes it a little bit more enjoyable. I would say the room that I'm most pleased with was probably the kitchen, because I think as a mum and as a family we spend so much time in there, and the kitchen previously was it was kind of in the middle of the house. It was quite small and quite dark, not really somewhere we wanted to spend lots of time, and one of the reasons we wanted to move out to the country, the countryside, was because we wanted to be like around all the greenery and see our garden. So for us, it was a massive shift to move our kitchen and create an extension that connected the garden basically. So we spend so much time in our kitchen, and I would definitely say that naturally I love that kind of Scandinavian style, and I feel like in our kitchen that's definitely feels very me in there. And yeah, we love spending time in there. It's really nice and light and bright. And it's great, it's fun in there, and then it's nice to come into the more traditional part of the house as well, with the big rooms and the beams and everything as well. But yeah, probably the kitchen. So we worked with a local architect, and we were really keen to have a kind of big storage space. So he came up with this design, which is sort of built into the old part of the house. So yeah, we've got these nice big cupboards which kind of hide everything away, and they've just got this nice reeded glass, so you can kind of get a little peek in to see what's in there. And it's just got masses and masses of storage in there. We've got drawers in that one, cookbooks. They're a bit of a mess at the moment, but yeah, cookbooks, things for the dog, everything gets kind of hidden away. So those have been absolutely brilliant. And then over here we have got our dining table. Quite often I'll just chuck a tablecloth down, and it's just like that underneath. It's kind of like a bit of a mid-century feel to the table. And then these chairs here we splurged on and got the original Hans Wegner chairs, which we absolutely love. They're called the wishbone chairs. And then we just got these little padded seat cushions. This is from a local company called Farrow Home, which are really nice. And we've got a bench along that side and chairs along this way. And this is where we have most of our meals, basically. And it's got the most beautiful view out to the garden, which we've got in this big picture window we created. And it's just, a really lovely space to sit and enjoy our meals and look out on the garden. Over here in this corner, this is a bit of like an ongoing project, really. I'm still trying to find the right thing. I was quite keen to have like a little sofa, maybe like a vintage sofa or a couple of 2 chairs in here. So this was actually a hand-me-down chair from my sister, but actually it's been great. And again, it's another popular spot for my dog to sit. But this is just a really nice little kind of chill out area. So the kids often sit here, or sometimes I'll sit there if my husband's cooking and to read a magazine. And just actually quite often I will just sit there when I have to edit content on my phone, and it feels really nice to still kind of feel connected to the garden. And it's nice and light and bright. But it's a nice cosy corner in our kitchen. So with the decoration of the house, one of the first things we did actually was start decorating with paint, because obviously paint is a great way to instantly change your home and make it feel a bit more you. So we kind of worked from the top down, and obviously then we did some work towards the end of that, and then 2 Christmases ago I think we finished the downstairs and did the final decorating. So the house very much went from being yellow when we moved in to being lots of different colours. So we've used lots of blues, lots of greens, lots of pinks, and then some colour pops as well, just to make the house a bit more kind of our style, really. We really like colour, and the house definitely has moved away from being very traditional. Doesn't really have many antiques. I like to mix old and new in the house, but it definitely took quite a long time to find the right things to work in the spaces. So we went from a Victorian terrace house in London, and we had quite a lot of mid-century furniture, and a lot of that, when we put it in, was quite small, and the rooms just sort of swallowed it up, really. So it's taken a bit of time to find the right things, like finding a big sofa, and then sourcing things from vintage markets and brocantes, as well as getting some more modern things for our kitchen, for example, as well, because there's definitely a mix of old and new in the house, which we absolutely love. We love all the character that the house naturally has. So it's definitely a much more colourful, fun family home now, I would say. Okay, we're going to go out to the garden now. Okay, so this is the garden. We've got the lawn on this side, and then we've created like a huge patio space, because eating outside, sitting outside, being outside is really, really important to us. So we created this area so we could have a nice big dining table here. Our barbecue's over there as well. And then on this side over here, we have got our outdoor sofa. So we kind of love just hanging out here as much as we can in the spring and in the summer, having barbecues. We've had a couple of parties out here as well. But the slabs we put down are limestone pavers, and I really love the kind of just the colour of them, really. I think it just works really well in this space. We've planted up and landscaped quite a lot of the garden. Up at the top there is the barn. So the barn is actually where my husband works. We converted that as well So it's got a music studio in it, and it's also got like a little living area and a kitchen. But yeah, we really love this space. We've got a fire pit there, sometimes we have going, and the dog obviously loves it out here, and the kids running around. We've got a big magnolia tree in the middle, and at the top of our garden we've got a pond actually as well. So yeah, it's just a really nice space that kind of just connects in with the newer part of the building, which has been clad in larch, silver larch, and yeah, kind of mixing old and new. If you look back on the house as well, you'll see the clock tower in the distance there as well. So with the planting, it's still quite early in the season still for quite a lot of things, but we've got hydrangeas. So we have a lovely big, I think they're called Annabelle hydrangea, which I think they'll be coming out in, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks time, but they lovely kind of little big pops of kind of creamy white that we've planted. And then we have a mixture of like kind of quite soft grasses, and then we kind of mix it back with some more formal kind of hedging just to give a bit of structure to the garden. And yeah, there's quite a few flowers to bring nice pops of colour. And at the top there, we've actually got some wisteria, which was here already actually, and that's actually flowering at the moment, which is really pretty. But yeah, it looks quite green at the moment, but eventually it will be a bit fuller and a bit more colourful with the flowers. I would say my favourite thing about this house would be Christmas. It's just, I think when we looked around it, we just knew that it was going to be a really great space to kind of get all our families together and spend Christmas together here. I think just the proportions of the room and the kind of the romance of Christmas, I really feel like this house encapsulates that really well. So yeah, I think that's probably one of my favourite things is, I mean, there's lots of things, but yeah, probably having Christmas here has been amazing, and hosting that, as stressful as that can be. I think everybody that has come at Christmas the last few years has really appreciated the space and yeah, how beautiful a house can become just simply with a tree and some decorations on the mantles and things like that. So that's definitely given me a lot of joy. Okay, let's head back inside now. Okay, we're going to go upstairs now. I'm going to show you some of the bedrooms. Okay, so this is the master bedroom, and more beams, really, really high ceiling height in here. It's a bit of a wow kind of factor space. The room is huge, and again was quite overwhelming trying to work out what to do with the space. One of the things that kind of came to mind was that actually a four-poster bed would work really well in here. So we've got this four-poster super king-size bed, and it doesn't actually look that big in here because the room's so big. So it's a really great bed, and this is a quilt that my mum actually made for me. She's the most amazing quilter. So this is like, yeah, one of my favourite pieces ever that I will keep forever and hand down, a bit of a heirloom piece. And then the bedside tables, they are they're vintage rattan tables, which I sourced, and again I tried to pick something that was quite big for the space and had some storage in it. So yeah, really pleased with those. The lampshades are actually hand painted by a friend called Katie Bell. So we've got bedside lamps either side. There is a huge fireplace that we don't use, kind of takes up quite a lot of the room. And then, yeah, more recently over here we had this, actually the guys that made our kitchen, they made this sort of custom dresser table for us and some storage. So I kind of use this as a little dressing table. Stripes. I got these from Tory Murphy, and they are like quite a heavy wool, so quite good for this room because it gets quite cold in here. It gets quite drafty. And then over this side, We had these wardrobes custom built. Again, these are the guys that made our kitchen, made these for us. For a long time in here, I just literally had rails for clothes. We didn't really know what we were going to do. And then we sort of came up with this, because this slightly dead space in the room would be perfect to build some storage in here. So yeah, these are great. And I don't know if you can see along the bottom how wonky the floors are basically in here. So underneath this carpet is the original flooring, and it was in a really, really, really bad state. And we just decided that it was going to just cost too much really to get it all fixed and sorted. So we've actually, we've boarded over it and put carpet down. So it is underneath there, maybe one day for somebody else to have the joy of dealing with, but it is very, very wonky in here. And there's lots of, yeah, kind of ups and downs and creaky floors underneath. But yeah, we're really pleased with the storage that we've got in here. Really nice to have proper grown-up wardrobes. I'm going to show you a couple of things in my wardrobe. I have to confess, I do have another area with more stuff, but this is kind of like my day-to-day stuff. I actually rent out quite a lot of my wardrobe, and I'm just going to show you, these are two things that have been really popular for people to rent. It's a Ganni dress and then a Cézanne little sequin dress. But yeah, I tend to keep my dresses in this side, and then I've got a little drawer down here for accessories. My husband does actually have a little bit of space down that end. And then in here I've got accessories, and then drawers with like knitwear and things in it. So lots of clothes. Because the ceilings were so high, we kind of felt like we wanted some kind of statement lighting, because it's, again, a big space to, that can cope with it. These are from Anthropology. And yeah, kind of quite fun, tassel-y lightings that we just thought, yeah, brought a bit of fun to the room really. So yeah, we've got one there and one here, and then we've just got lamps elsewhere. So we decided to keep this space quite neutral because of the beams. There's quite a lot going on. It was already quite busy. So yeah, we just decided to actually keep it very calm and very neutral. I think it's, I can't even remember what the colour is on the walls. It might just be a very, very pale kind of like grey, white. But yeah, it's just quite a nice calm space really. And I think at one point we were talking about whitewashing the beams, but we decided not to, so it was too big a job. But yeah, I've decided not go too crazy of colour in here and just have the colours from the quilt and the lamps and everything and the rugs to, yeah, kind of give that colour pop to the room. Probably tips for finding your own sort of style or sense of style. I would definitely say think probably about your favourite outfit you wear, or maybe like an outfit that you wear that you've, I don't know, had compliments on, and think about what it is, the elements within that you like, whether it's the colour or maybe it's a shape or maybe it's dresses. And maybe think a bit more about what you can kind of get out of that. So yeah, I mean, for me, probably in the last 5 years, I've just really discovered that dresses are just a really important part of my style. I think maybe becoming a mum, it was a very easy thing just to throw on and feel a bit more pulled together. And then colour as well, I think is really important. I know people can be quite scared of colour, but again, it's just finding the right colour that works for you, and yeah, just being brave and kind of going for it really. But yeah, I'd probably say my main tip would just be, yeah, kind of think about what you've already got that you love, and you can always go on places like Pinterest, which I think is amazing for loads of ideas for outfits and style, and even create like a little like mood board of the things you love. And then keep that in mind, yeah, when you're going shopping, and yeah, start to develop your own style that way. So this is our guest bedroom, and we have gone with a kind of, I think it's French grey colour on the walls in here. So fairly neutral, and then we've got a pink stripe blind. These are Tory Murphy again, and the headboard, which I actually did myself recently, just to tie in the bigger stripe and the little stripe, kind of went for it a little bit in here. The bedside tables are vintage ones that have been painted in yellow, and the lights they're like a Liberty print fabric. These are from Pookie, and these are vintage prints that used to be my granddad's. Kind of gone for it a bit in here with the kind of colours and textiles. This is an African print throw that used to be my mum's. Yeah, it's just a really fun space. Guests really love staying in here. We've gone with cafe curtains, linen cafe curtains on the windows for a bit of privacy. But there's, yeah, really nice light in here. And the ceilings are a bit lower in here as well, so it kind of has a slightly cosy element too. So this is the guest ensuite. It's a pretty big bathroom actually for a guest ensuite. But we went for it with the colour. This is pink. Faramball pink, and there's some more pink stripes. It has a roll top bath, and this was actually here already. But yeah, the roll top bath, which is a bit of an amazing statement piece, as well as the marble sink as well, which I absolutely love. I wish this was in our bathroom, but the guests get to enjoy this, and yeah, it's just a really, really fun bathroom. We put these wall lights in from original BTC. And then the toilet as well, that was already here, but a bit more of a traditional toilet, which is guests always find quite fun as well. And then there's a nice view out over the garden as well. So the word home means to me is probably family. So definitely a place where we can all feel comfortable and really happy and create memories, really. I want my kids just to grow up and have some amazing memories of this huge mad house that we ended up buying. So yeah, I think that's probably what home means to me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more. On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're in Surrey, England, visiting the stunning farmhouse of interior designer Louise Jones. Louise, known for her transformative touch, took on the challenge of breathing new life into a 16th century red brick cottage. From uncovering original brick floors to restoring historic details, Louise has blended antique treasures with modern comfort. Her creative reconfiguration of spaces, like turning the dining room into a spacious kitchen, showcases her skill in preserving the farmhouse's charm while creating a home that's perfect for today. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Louise. Welcome to my home in Surrey. Can I show you around? My name's Louise Jones and my company's Fairfax Jones. I'm an interior designer based in London. We're on the Kent-Surrey border. It's a country cottage, approximately 500 years old. So in my own home, I've followed the architecture and the actual history of the property. So I've been very sympathetic to both those traits. Because of the age of this property, I decided to use antique furniture, antique textiles, antique materials such as tiles and metalwork, and go with the character of the property. Welcome to my kitchen. This is an old farmhouse type kitchen. Originally, when we bought the property, the kitchen was through this door here, and this room was actually a dining room. It had a cream carpet and was very sort of traditional English dining room. But we realised that we needed a bigger space We also wanted to be open onto the garden because we've got a lovely view here through to the garden and lovely far-reaching views of the farmland. So we didn't want to be stuck back at that side of the house. We wanted to sort of see this and be able to walk in and out and dine outside or pop in and out as much as we liked. So we moved the kitchen. And in deciding how we wanted the kitchen, I thought in historic properties, in historic English properties, typically an old kitchen is a freestanding kitchen. You're not going to have a continuous run of units. It just didn't exist in those days. I already had a couple of old pieces, which luckily fitted. And in this instance, I had this old dresser base, which I decided to convert into the sink unit. So we put a marble top on it. We dropped this old butler's sink into it and a typical sort of English 3-hole basin mixer. And then we also got a dishwasher integrated into that, which is quite handy. A typical sort of farmhouse scrubbed table. It also had to be super practical in this room. We've got 3 dogs. We've got horses, and in the winter, it's a nightmare because there's mud everywhere. So fortunately, when we bought the house and we lifted up this cream carpet, we discovered the original brick floors. So these floors are hundreds of years old, and they go right away across through the ground floor. They needed a lot of scrubbing. They were filthy. So we were on our hands and knees for days, really, just scrubbing them, sort of Cinderella style, I suppose. But anyway, they've worked a treat and we're really pleased with those. But we carried on sort of collecting and finding different pieces that could be quite practical. Plate storage. I love old china, and I thought this is a lovely opportunity to display some really old pieces of porcelain. So some of these things, I mean, that's the sort of old-fashioned teacup, which is about 500 years old, but that's what they used to drink their tea out of. It wouldn't work for me. I'd probably have about 8 huge mugs of tea a day, but never mind. And there's just a nice, interesting collection. And also this splashback, these are really old Portuguese tiles. So these are about 400 years old. So Super Company sources lots of really old tiles. But this kind of design actually became the basis for a lot of rug designs in England hundreds of years ago. We put the old range in, which gets a lot of use. And then what was here when we first arrived, all these beams are original. So they're hundreds and hundreds of years old. And by the looks of things, they've been used in other properties in the past. So either they've come from a house that was demolished over 500 years ago, or they've come from old ships, because quite often old beams were reclaimed from ships and brought into properties and houses for construction. So when we arrived, this fireplace was already here, this big Inglenook fireplace. I just painted out the back in a slightly stronger colour because I thought this kind of khaki green works nicely with the copper pots. I thought that was quite a nice combination. And every day, as soon as, well, probably in about a month's time, so as soon as it goes below about 15, I start lighting fires, much to my boyfriend's dismay, because he has to chop all the wood. And yeah, we get through the wood I get through the wood in no time. And the other thing we did, just to get the feeling of an old house back, because when we came here, it didn't feel like an old house. You know, cream carpets, cream walls throughout. It was a bit bland. I don't like bland. I like houses with a lot of character, and I like houses that look like they've evolved over time rather than being designed on a mood board, you know, dropping fabrics on. We put some old sort of cast iron radiators in. The other thing we did, I like sort of shaped splashbacks like this. I think they look quite characterful. Next, I'd love to show you the pantry, so follow me. So welcome to the pantry. So this was the old kitchen, so much sort of more enclosed space than next door, which is another reason why we wanted to be out there. We had a lot more space to sort of spread out. And here really, it's a practical pantry. It's full of food. Again, I like old Delft plates. So these are sort of, I think about 1600s. and I do sort of collect them, but I find those really attractive. And then I bought this for my boyfriend for one of his birthdays. He likes his red wine. And then this I got in auction. I do buy quite a bit in auction because you get good value for money, I found. And it literally fit into this space by a matter of inches. So quite fortunate with that. This is like an old, I think it's a cabinet that they used to keep in coach houses for when horse and carriages used to go into these coach houses, and then they would keep all their kit. The riders would keep all their kit in one of these cabinets. But I thought it's quite nice because it's got sort of practical storage, but also you can sort of display something. So it's best of both worlds, really. And then that's another sort of boyfriend present, sort of the big wine containers. Over here, I've had these old Smeg fridges in so many properties. I don't know why, but I always go back to them. I find them quite attractive. And then at the windows, I just did a really simple ticking stripe from Chelsea Textiles. It's something and nothing really, that, but it just works. And then this is quite a pretty little piece here. So this, again, it's quite practical. It's absolutely full of food and cereals and things. But this is an alpine cabinet. So all those Swiss and Austrian chalets in the old days, they would tend to have these kind of things. And again, I saw this in auction, and it's got nothing to do with England at all, but I just quite liked it. I found it really decorative, and I love the colours, and the scale's quite sweet too. This light fixture, I like arts and crafts. I think I've got a soft spot for the arts and crafts period. And this is kind of pewter and this lovely sort of amber pressed glass with this element light bulb. They work really well in these kind of period pieces. I got this in auction, but it's such a lovely shape and style. It's a sort of nice characterful piece in this area. Welcome to the sitting room. And this is Dodo Duddings. He's our rescue lurcher. He's getting on a bit now, but he's a good boy. Hopefully he'll behave himself. I'm pretty sure he will. So this, I would say, is pretty traditional English country cottage. You would know it's the sort of more formal room in a house in England because, believe it or not, they've tried to do sort of more decorative mouldings. That little bit of sort of shape that they've put onto that beam is trying to say that this is the most formal room in the house. Yeah, so we've only been here around about 3 years, but when I started to think about this room, I wanted it to feel as though it's sort of been here for almost forever, that the room's sort of evolved and developed over time, over the years. So some of the pieces are new, even though they're probably like 100 or 200 years old, but other things I brought with me from other places and houses. The sofas are the sort of typical Howard style that you'd see in an English drawing room. This one's in a sort of Claremont blue wool, and this sofa's over here is in a very soft pink linen. So with the colours, I did want to bring some pinks into here. I think pink's a sort of nice sort of English country cottage colour, all the flowers, the roses, peonies, whatever. So I did want to bring those floral colours into the scheme. So there's sort of the very soft blues, the sort of delphinium blue. Well, this is a sort of antique pink velvet. I like that sort of very soft colour palette for here. And we've sort of done a chalky pink wash on the walls. I think that paint was from Papers and Paints, which is a firm I use a lot. They're in Chelsea. This chair over here is from Kinkham Sofas, but again, it's sort of a classic English wing armchair, and it's in a Colfax and Fowler check, the Eton check, which I think's been around forever. And it's got a loose cover on it, which I thought was quite nice, quite relaxed. The rug as well is sort of old Isnick pattern in these soft pinks and taupe colours. Kind of reflects the garden as well, I think. This whole fire surround is original. The local blacksmith, we've got a blacksmith in the village, he made the hood for the fire, which is rather nice. And then over here, I've got this sort of pine chest with a lovely Amari lamp on it. This little chair is done in a Fortuny fabric. Fortuny is a Venetian company. They've been going for hundreds of years, and they will not allow anybody in their factory, anybody, they won't let anybody see how they make their fabrics ever. And it's a bit of a luxury, that fabric, I suppose. And then this is another sort of arts and crafts piece, which I quite like, this sort of little brass mirror. I've had this a long time. It's an oyster walnut cabinet on a stand. And then sort of English paintings. We're mad into our horses. We've got 2 down the road, and there's a lot of kind of horse art and horses in photo frames here. You can't get away from horses and dogs, I'm afraid. So if you don't like horses and dogs, you probably wouldn't like it here very much. The other people who do really good paintings are Sybil Colfax and John Fowler is a separate entity to Colfax and Fowler. They've got a beautiful shop on Pimlico Road, and they have just gorgeous pieces. So they do paintings, ceramics, old chairs and tables. It's just beautifully put together, and they have lovely pictures. I also got this piece from them. It's sort of a Chinese piece, but I think this Chinese black and gold look, the chinoiserie look, goes really well in an English country interior. The other thing that's from Colfax actually is this little stool, which is really handy. You can just pick them up and put them wherever you want, and it's just a handy little side table. But they do these fun little decorative pieces that sort of slot in anywhere. This again is another Fortuny, this Italian fabric, which I love the colour of that. It's kind of eau de Nil colour. And then again, you're seeing it in the summer. In the winter, this house has to do different things. It has to stay warm. So we have these curtains backing onto doors and openings to keep out the drafts. And this is a nice heavy velvet that's from Watts of Westminster. Again, that's an old British company that's been going hundreds of years. And then behind this door, I've just done this old sort of tweedy check, but again, it's got such heavy interlining because in the winter, the winds just whip across those fields and they're cold. So I didn't go straight into interior design. After university, I became an accountant. I worked for one of the big 5 at the time, accountancy firms. Didn't enjoy it one bit. Decided after day 1 I hated it. But I went to then train at the Inchbald School of Design, which is one of the big ones in London, and did a year's diploma. Really enjoyed that, and then joined one of the big interior design companies in London, and I stayed with them for quite a few years before sort of setting up on my own. And I've had my company now for just about 22 years. So I'll take you to the dining room. Follow me. So welcome to the dining room. This was more of a challenge, I think, this room. It's a bit lower and it's quite narrow. I had to sort of put my thinking hat on a bit. But typically with rooms that are a bit more challenging in terms of the dimension, it's better not to sort of chicken out. It's better to go a bit punchier with your colours, your finishes, and the whole kind of scheme that you're trying to do, just to go in a bit stronger. So that's what I did. So the colours on the walls are more intense. The curtain fabrics are heavier. There's a much heavier weave involved. And the overall feel is a bit stronger and more robust, I would say. For instance, the dining table. So this had to be quite a skinny refectory style table. It's about 400 years old. I got it in auction and I think I paid about £200 for it. So I was pretty chuffed with that. And it's such a great piece. It's not far from here. It didn't come from far from here. It weighs an absolute ton, as do most things in this house. So every time the guys had to offload things and bring things in, they weren't terribly happy, to put it mildly. But anyway, it's a great table. And the chairs, again, I've just done in this kind of lovely sort of natural tweed in a sort of nice green and red plaid check pattern. In dining rooms and kitchens, in terms of the art, I like to do still lifes. I think it sort of works. So we've got this sort of floral scene here. Paintings, I got this one from Julia Boston. She's in Fulham in London, and she has gorgeous paintings like this and on much bigger scale as well. But yeah, this is quite a small scale for her, but quite a nice piece. And then again, for dining room, and particularly if it's green and I've got these sort of tapestry curtains, I thought let's get some authentic, sort of genuine tapestry in here. So that's a Flemish tapestry that's about 1605 in quite a spectacular frame, I think. I've set the table for dinner this evening, but I use all sorts of things really. I love Richard Ginori for plates. They're quite rich and quite decorative. And there's a slight mismatch going on, but yeah, that's his. And then I got these, I think I got these even from eBay, but they're really heavy lead crystal gilt glasses. And I love all this at Christmas time. This room's great at Christmas because I really set the table and go to town with it, and we have a little tree in the corner. These are quite interesting. Again, like I said before, I love the chinoiserie decoration in English country interiors. I think it works great. This black, gold and green goes really well. But these were in China, how they transported their lunch around. But they make, I don't use them for that, but they just make nice decorative pieces. And then carrying on with the heavier, thicker textures, I've got this needlepoint fabric on this little chair. This is Watts of Westminster as well. This pattern's been going around forever. And then again, these lovely big sort of oversized Imari pots, I think work quite nicely in here. I have looked at the history of this house and I've started to do some digging, but I need to dig a bit deeper, or maybe ask somebody who's a bit more used to investigating period properties like this. All I know was that it was 3 separate little cottages. So there would have been different families in each cottage, and then at some point it was knocked into one. What we love about it is it's really remote. We don't have neighbours. We've got these beautiful 360-degree views, but because it is off the beaten path, not much has been written about it or photographed, or it doesn't come up in many sort of historical documents like other houses, which might be on a road or a lane. People would stop and paint it or something, but not with this one. So I need to do a bit more work on it. So we've just got this kind of little nook, this little niche. And I had this old chest for a long, long time. It used to be at the bottom of one of the beds in a different place. But here I just thought it sort of sets itself up quite well for a bar, quite useful for the dining table. And because it's quite a dark little niche, I thought a nice old mirror would work quite nicely there. And again, I'm using my chinoiserie. I obviously like it. So now I'll take you upstairs to show you the rest of the home. So welcome to the bathroom. This is our bathroom. When we bought the house, it was actually 3 rooms, and it's the only room that we completely reworked, I suppose. The bathroom was this small space here. The entire bathroom was actually fitted into that, believe it or not. And then the door was in a different position. They had a sort of a little bedroom here, and then there was a ceiling with this sort of ladder going up, and I don't know what they expected you to do up there, but anyway. So we knocked it all out. We've got these lovely rafters going right up. Maybe it's about 15, 16 feet going up there. And just to emphasise that height, I found these old, they're actually Italian, these banners. I don't know where they would have come from. As flowers in vases, but I thought they were quite pretty up there. And then I had this mirror that used to be over a fireplace, but we just bolted it onto those beams. And then again, I had this old dresser that used to be in a dining room, but when it comes to bathrooms, I like them to be really original, full of character. Again, I don't like the whole fitted out, everything's like a suite. And I wanted it to feel like a room of the house. So I took this piece of furniture and we had it converted into a vanity. I think the taps are from Water Monopoly, and got this nice old green marble there. And I always find shelves on the top like this quite handy. And then we've got this old trunk down in the corner. This lady, I find her quite sweet, really, how she's looking down on you in the bath. And yeah, we've just got the best view ever, I think, from the bath. It's just right over the garden and over the fields beyond. And I put the pattern on the walls because once I thought I do want it to feel cosy, and I love this sort of floral pattern. It's interesting, it's decorative. We did have to put this step in because the bath is cast iron, it's so heavy, and we were just concerned that the house wouldn't take it. So at the last minute we had to sort of get a steel beam underneath here, and then they clad it in timber. The wallpaper's from GP&J Baker. Again, it's a chinoiserie design, but the colours aren't sort of typical chinoiserie, I would say. It's sort of this egg yolk colour and delft blue, so it's quite unusual, but it just gives a really cosy feel in summer and in winter, which is rather nice. And the other thing I think is quite nice is having sort of more decorative light fittings rather than your typical bathroom light fittings. These are old pewter wall lights from a company called Hilary Batstone, based in London, in Pimlico. And then this old light fitting, I got that in auction actually, but it's quite nice for this little space. And then we did sort of go a bit more modern with the shower. Well, I say more modern, but you know, it's got the glass screen, but a nice big open shower. We've got super views down the fields beyond over there, and a really good rain dome. So the bathtub is from Aston Matthews. They're a sort of North London sanitary ware supplier. I don't really like really big baths where you feel you can't sort of hold yourself in. So it's quite a neat size. And then this little table is like a decoupage table, just a sweet thing, but it's pretty handy. And that's from Robert Kime. And the little tiered table is from Sybil Colfax and John Fowler. Again, really useful. So let's head to the primary bedroom. So welcome to the primary bedroom. This room was really special from the first moment we viewed the house, and the reason being was the ceiling, because yes, the house is over 500 years old, and this ceiling is from that time. So it's a Tudor hand-painted ceiling, and it's got sort of carnations, dog roses, daisies, and then these sort of running motifs. And then on the ceiling, there's sort of abstract cloud designs. So it's pretty special. And a lady came and wrote about it and said there's only, I think, a handful of them in the country. So it's pretty unique. And we were amazed when we first saw it. We weren't expecting to see this at all. And they've also managed to do, you can just about still see it, but on these beams and rafters on the side, there are some hand-drawn sort of decoration. So at one point, it was all whitewashed over, and it was discovered again in the 1990s. They came to do some repairs or do redecoration, and somebody said, hang on a minute, you've got something behind here. And they discovered this, and so they paid this restorer to come and do a whole number on it and brought it back as much as they could. Yeah, so that was sort of the starting point for what we did in the room. And again, I wanted to have this historical feel. Like most of the other rooms in the house when we moved in, it was all whitewashed. It had the white carpets throughout, everything. And again, when we ripped up the carpets, we discovered the original Tudor floorboards. So they're they're so wide, the original nail holes, this beautiful old oak, 500 or so, we don't really know, I suppose, but years old. They're absolutely all over the place. I mean, you're walking up and down, uphill, downhill, and to such an extent, actually, that this piece of furniture The floors are sloping like this. So when we put this in, it was about to topple over. So the guy said, well, let's just chop off the back legs to straighten it out. But that's what you have to do. You know, you can't sort of say, well, let's flatten the floor. That's the house. You just have to work with it. So quite often you'll put a glass here and then it just slides off, but you get used to it. This was my parents' piece actually, and it needs a bit of restoration, but that was one of my mother's favourite pieces that's ended up here. That's one of her chairs. The Fortuny fabric again. I quite like this sort of casual, ruffle-headed sort of flop over. I don't think there's a name for that design, but it's quite pretty. Again, a ticking stripe on a chair. It's really casual, but I think ticking stripes can go anywhere really. And then I thought, let's do a bit of a number with the bed because we've got all this height rather than just a regular headboard. And I've never really had a bed like this before with the sort of big pelmet. But I bought this pelmet in auction probably about 18 years ago and I'd never used it. And it was always in the garage, wrapped in bubble wrap, just going from house to house with me. Anyway, so when I came here, I thought, oh, hang on, we can use this now. So finally it came out of the bubble wrap and it got hung up here. I found this came up in auction at Druitt's, which is in Oxfordshire, and it's the original hand embroidered crewel work from the 1600s. So this was a bit of an expensive purchase, but I thought it's worth it because it really feels like part of this house, I suppose. It was in pieces, so my curtain maker, Tilly, had a bit of a nightmare with it, trying to get it to work. But I love it, I think it's great. And we just lined it out in a really inexpensive mossy green linen. I like these little reading lights. They keep the bedside table clutter-free, so you can just pile up all your rubbish, I suppose, but they work. This piece, like I said, we took about that much off the back legs to get it to lie straight. When it came, it was all timber, but it was a dark corner, this, in fact, and I said, let's put mirror in it, just to give it a bit more sparkle, a bit more life, but also when I'm in bed, I get more of a reflection, so that's quite nice. And then, again, this is quite nice, again, just having a bit of reflection. It just adds to the depth and breadth of the room. This is another piece that weighed an absolute ton and they struggled to get it upstairs. When we first moved in, we were sort of camping on the floor over there. It was freezing. And we thought, let's light the fire, which is a really bad idea because we almost died from smoke inhalation, to be perfectly honest. So we had to have all the chimneys relined and tested and all the rest of it. So this is now just for ornamentation. But yeah, I don't think that's ever going to leave. And then I like these kind of chest on stand pieces. I think they're slightly more unusual. So that's quite a nice piece for that spot, I thought. And this is the original old back of the house. So they added an extra bit on at some point, but they kept these old timber frames and I just use it as a bookcase now. And then I inherited this again from my parents. It's a Gillows piece. Gillows were in Lancaster in England, and which is where I'm from, my parents were from. So I keep a hold of it. So even though it's quite sort of zhuzhy, sort of quite Frenchy piece and all gilt, I still keep a hold of it for sentimental purposes. And the carpet is the reds and blues really of this, the mural that you see up there. I thought I'd use those colours in the carpet. The portraits, they're not my aunts, uncles, ancestors, they're really not. But I just thought it'd be quite good fun to do this kind of thing in here. I'm trying to find portraits of people that aren't really ugly. No, sorry, I shouldn't say. But when you go through auction catalogues, you see some pretty scary individuals in these sort of pictures. And I thought she's quite sweet. And again, I love the reds and the blues. She's French, but she still works here. This is the oldest one, of course. Again, he doesn't scare me to death when I'm lying in bed. But he's Tudor. And then it looks a little bit like my boyfriend, so maybe he's like a long lost ancestor, I don't know. My boyfriend doesn't have a powdery wig like that. But again, the reds and the blues, and he's not too terrifying. So now I'll take you to another bathroom downstairs. Welcome to the downstairs bathroom. There's this small corridor space in between. This is the old back of the house here. It's got the stone clad on the walls, and it's got that little window that we saw upstairs that's in the bedroom. And then this is sort of an extension that they put on before my time. But the corridor was sort of pretty bland. There's nothing happening here when we moved in. It was just white with a cream carpet. So I quite like this sort of trellis design, which we wallpapered onto the walls. And again, some more of my Delft plates. This is a William de Morgan vase. I love this. This is one of my favourite pieces. Again, it's an arts and crafts ceramic piece, bit oversized, but again, I like it for that. And then into the bathroom, again, I've done in arts and crafts style. This is a Voisey, was the designer in those days, and he designed not many wallpapers, probably about 10 wallpapers, and this is one of them. It's very country, sort of swans and deer and the doves. More Delft plates. The blue and white Delft will go anywhere. And some little etchings on the wall. And this sort of star design on the floor. So it's pretty decorative for a small space, but I like that kind of thing. The old brick tiles again, which are great. These pastels, my mother did those actually. So put her art next to the loo. So let's have a look at the garden. Garden and the setting were probably the prime reason we purchased the property. But I say the garden, the actual land, there wasn't a garden when we arrived. So we put in everything you see really. So I thought it would be quite nice to have this sort of symmetrical layout centred on the front door. So as we come in and out, we have this really pleasing, lovely view straight down to this circular herbaceous border. And the urn on the pedestal at the end, I bought in an auction. And there's loads of symmetry here. There isn't much in the house at all, but there is in the garden. You know, the nice pots and these stone balls. And then left and right, we put in these circular flower beds. We laid the terrace, and I put in lots. I had lots of pots originally. I love gardening. If I didn't do what I did, I would be a gardener. English country sort of cottage garden flowers, I would say. And we also put in the hedge because there is actually a public footpath on the other side of the hedge. So we put this in. So that's in its early stages, I suppose. We've put that in for privacy, but it has to be said there's not many people walking up and down. It's pretty peaceful. But lovely, lovely views, winter and summer, and sunsets and gorgeous skies, day and night. It's really pleasant. So this for us is our summer sitting room. It's a summer sitting room and a summer dining room. Yeah, we eat here, we barbecue here, and we have friends over, and we'll just sit there well into the evening. It's a really pleasant place to sit, really, very, very peaceful. So when we did first come to see the house, all we saw was lawn and the house. It was the winter, so there was nothing floral, there was no green leaves. It was pretty bleak. But I loved this space, and I could see a lot of potential. It's very, very peaceful. The house itself had, all the windows were dark brown. They were painted really dark brown. So it was so drab, and it looked really like quite a sad house, really. But obviously, it's just a change of paint colour makes all the difference, and a lot of flowers and plants. So now it's this soft, pretty house, which is great. Hello. Come here. Come on, Albert. He's our new addition. He's brand new. He's enjoying life now. He's been in kennels all his life as a racer, and finally he's got a garden to play in, and he's molting. So at the back of the house, we've kept things more natural and a bit wilder. We have planted a lot of wildflowers, which has been a bit of a success, and maybe not. But there's an orchard here, and we're trying to develop that and enlarge it a bit. And the other thing we did out here, you know, like I said, we've got these lovely views all the way round. We just removed some of the smaller trees here just to get more of a view. And it's a lovely place to sit. When it gets really hot, it just stays quite cool here. We get this lovely breeze. And just to sit and look over the fields, it's rather nice. And then, yes, we put this urn over here, and that's actually the pet cemetery. But yeah, it's just sort of the end focus of the garden. So let's have a little look inside the shepherd's hut. This is overflow accommodation. Every so often we do need to sort of put somebody up in here. Hopefully it's during one of the summer months, but it's quite handy and it looks quite pretty in the garden. And I gave it this sort of racing theme. So we've got a horse racing blanket on the bed, this sort of leather work on the cushion, and then all the famous English and Irish race horses. So there's Red Rum, Arkle, Desert Orchid, all the big ones, Frankel. Yeah, I just got them sort of printed off and framed and gave it that sort of theme. But this is an old original shepherd's hut. It's probably about 1920s. The poor person hasn't just got a candle and a torch. They have got electricity. They've got, and we can put a heater in here. So yes, every mod con.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.